one friend, tell them to build some thick skin by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast. Hedge is gone. Where's Hedge? He left me. I don't know where's he at?
Sorry.
Oh, there he is. Hey, buddy.
Technical difficulties.
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 91. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hedge.
What's going on?
We're back.
We did it. We survived. And we survived another week.
It's funny because, always saying we're back, I mean, obviously we wouldn't be back if we didn't record an episode, so it's almost like it's redundant, right? It's obvious we're here.
I mean, you say it's obvious, but I mean, that's like a week without hearing our beautiful voices.
That is true.
So
Anything can happen in a week.
Anything could happen in a week. So guess what?
Yeah.
We're back.
We're back. And we're back with housekeeping first, because that's, you should know by now. It's been over 100 hours, all right? You can listen to us everywhere. You can send an email to us at podcastcore@gmail.com. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info, and then follow us on whatever platform you prefer, or all the platforms, because that will help us with discovery. So we appreciate that. Leave a like, comment, a short review. We like to hear back from you. But the easiest way, one friend, tell them to build some thick skin by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast. Hedge is gone. Where's Hedge? He left me. I don't know where's he at?
Sorry.
Oh, there he is. Hey, buddy.
Technical difficulties. I hate it here, but
go ahead.
It's fine. The technical difficulties, barred me from, my frustration with your intros, the puns. I wasn't ready to clap back this week. Now you got me.
I've literally done at least 100 puns at this point. That's insane to think about per episode.
So good though. All right, but yeah, we're talking about Kaisa today. This has been one that we've kind of put off for a little bit, and it's one that I'm really excited to get into, especially since we have talked about the Void before, and there's way too many episodes to go back and listen to. I guess just to keep it simple, we'll say Zillion and Rek'Sai. So that way, it's staying in the same region as far as a card game for the cards that we're going to talk about. But overall, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of stuff with the Void, because if you've listened to those episodes, and we'll touch on it a little bit going over Kaisa, the Void is all consuming. So none of Runeterra is safe, even though this is mostly talk about Shurima cards.
But in our Rek'Sai episode, one of our most popular episodes for whatever reason. So either people really like the Void content in that, or there's some mysterious sexual thing there. But we'll leave those two options on the table. You pick what pill you want to take.
I mean, Big Mama Rek'Sai did get a dumpy seal of approval. So
it's true. We did give her a dumpy seal of approval.
So you believe what you want, believe what you want. But yeah, let's talk about these cards, because that's really what connects us as far as to this story. And we're gonna start off with a spell, and I'm gonna be kind of brutally honest with this. As far as with the start, the spells when they released Kaisa really lackluster. So sorry, this one's gonna be quick. So this is Void Seeker. So Void Seeker is a 1-mana slow speed spell, and it is deal 1 to a follower. If you have evolved deal 3 to a unit instead. So evolved, when you're looking at any cards that have the Kaisa synergy, including Kaisa herself, that is the new keyword that came out with the Kaisa block. And with that keyword, if you have controlled units that have had 6 different keywords, you will trigger evolved, and evolved just gives a unit with evolved +3/+3. In the case of this spell, since it's a spell and not a unit, it's going to buff the damage to 3 instead of 1, and you can target a unit. So with this, if you've evolved, you can actually target a champion. So having like a little bit of like flexibility on cards is really cool, but this is like fake flexibility because it's not really flexible. It's like, oh no, you can have flexibility if you jump through hoops, which at that point, if you're jumping through hoops, you should probably have something better.
Yeah, it makes you work for it to try to avoid an overpower scaling issue, but unfortunately, it also restricts it in a way, right?
And as far as like with the spells on Kaisa that came with the Kaisa block, again, like they're all kind of boring, but the flavor text is one of the things that is nice here because we love that kind of stuff. And the flavor text really does a good job of connecting the spells from the card game back to Kaisa, the character from League of Legends, because like the flavor text on this one is just hurts, doesn't it? Like, and like if you've played if you played as Kaisa or against Kaisa in League of Legends, she is very quippy.
Yep.
And very snappy. Like, you get a kill and it's like, that's one down. And then she's literally starts counting. Like, she keeps up with her own body count in game. And like the dialogue on these cards is no different. Like, she's very much a quippy little girl.
Yeah, which is interesting. And towards the end of the episode, we'll get into some discussion elements about some of the community's views on Kaisa's origin versus her personality and how there's a disconnect. But one thing that is a disconnect that we want to make sure, because we've done so much Star Guardian content, go listen to all of it if you're a mad person. But
which we are.
Like we mentioned in our last Ari episode, this is the same thing. This is not the same character, right? They're different from their Star Guardian counterpart. Unlike like Miss Fortune is very close to Sarah in her representation, but this one, no.
No, absolutely not. I would even argue that like Miss Fortune's not that close. Lux fits.
Yeah, Lux is pretty close.
Miss Fortune does not strike me as someone that could empathize with Lux in the world of Runeterra, only in the world of Star Guardians. But yeah, that's going to take us over to our follower. And okay, I kind of picked a boring follower out of the options, but it's because of the world built around all of the followers. And I know we've said this a lot in the most recent episodes. Go look at all of these cards that came out with Kaisa, because they act like they build a story very similar to the cards that we had dropped for like Rumble. And so Voidling is going to be the follower we're going with today. Voidling is a 1-mana 1/1 with Evolve. And while in hand, I have a random keyword that changes each round. When I'm summoned, grant me this keyword. So whenever the card is sitting in your hand, it's going to have a keyword on it, and then when that round is over, that keyword's going to switch to something else. You have no control over what the keyword's going to be, but this card is definitely a staple in the Kaisa decks because it gives you access to keywords that's very hard to build around in the regions that you want to play. And it's also, a 1-drop. Like if you're going up against an aggro deck, you need blockers. So very much something that needs to be there, yada, yada, yada. The flavor and the art on this card and all of the Void cards that came out with Kaisa is so good. And it's the reason I picked this card here is, so the flavor text starts telling a story of what's happening in the art. All right, and it's just starting from the top. Darna remembered throwing open the windows that morning and smelling the freshly blah 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 freshly ah! Sorry. Yeah, and smelling the freshly baked loaves. Oh God, that was stressful. All right. Down the way, fishermen had already begun hauling the day's catch up to the noon markets. She remembered smiling, thinking it would be a fine day. All right. That is the flavor text on the Voidling card. And if you open up the full art of the card for the Voidling, it is not a fine day. It is not a fine day. And as far as like all of the cards that came out with it, it's the art is mirrored by the flavor text on each card, and it's telling out a story of a small town in Shurima, or a village called I want to say Bevlin, and it's following the events of Bevlin while they get invaded by the void.
Yeah.
And this is also very interesting because some of the cards are void hunters, which we have not talked a lot about void hunters on here before, but they've been around in Runeterra for a long time because Kassadin and Malzahar are some of like OG characters, and they're void hunters. But like there's more void hunters that came out with the Kaisa block, and they are in Bevlin fighting the void. And so the stories with the flavor text is following what's happening that day. It's telling us more about some of these void hunters that we're seeing for the first time on the cards, and the art basically all goes together because it's all in the same town square. So it's just a bunch of really cool art that's putting together one big picture of total annihilation for this poor little village.
Yeah, and there in this specific art for the Voidling as well, Kaisa has a Where's Waldo moment. So open it up and see if you can find her.
Yeah. Oh my God. Can we make a book? Where's Kaisa? It's bestseller, dude.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, Riot, reach out, man. We're just chilling.
Yeah, you can come chill with us. You can come chill with us. All we want is like a little bit of credit. That's all we really want.
5% minimum. But you know, pennies on the dollar. But let's talk about Kaisa. Let's finally do it. The title of this episode, Curse of the Spawn. So that's a shout out for you comic book fans that are familiar with the Image comic, one of their best sellers, Spawn, from the man taught himself. Anyways, Curse of the Spawn. The reason we chose that title is because it's a very close representation of that experience for the origin of Spawn. But warning, this is not a test. This is not a test. We repeat, this is not a test. Kaisa is not a street urchin. I know, surprising.
Thank you, God. All right. Do you know how, like we would have, because Kaisa's a cool character. She has a lot of cool stories. Do you know how awful it would have been if just like, okay, let's sell the street urchin bit so we could get to the fun part. Like, thank God we don't have to do that.
If this story didn't come out years ago and it was after our show, we would definitely have claim that Riot's listening because it's stated 100%. In the story that she is not a street urchin. Like, it's making it clear that she's just an ordinary girl from an ordinary family with loving parents in the suburbs of Shurima.
Excellent. Thank you. You know what? Not everybody needs to be an orphan pickpocket.
Exactly. But her story is just as tragic as any young child. So,
spoilers.
I know, right? So when Kaisa's 10, there's a certain dark practice and events start going on as the void starts to creep around. And this is around Shurima and mainly near her village. And the parents of these children urge them to, be aware of their surroundings at all time, try to avoid any of these areas, because what the townsfolk are doing is they have these sacrificial areas where they're doing tributes, dances, etc., and treating the void as if it's some kind of entity slash god to be satisfied. Well, one day, these kids are playing around. They see a pen of sacrificial goats that are planned to be sacrificed, and these are brought in by nomads. So her friends decide to set them free, thinking it's harmless, good deed, right? Kids love animals. That's just how that works. And then the ground beneath them begins to shake.
And as we talked about in our Lysandra episode, Rek'Sai episode,
Yeah.
Zillion episode, and every Bilgewater episode, if stuff is happening below you, it can only be good things, right?
It's a wellspring about to sprout you into the sky to the gods.
And that is what happened in the Azir episode. So we got it. And this is Shurima, right? So it's another spring of life.
Oh, Hedge hit the nail on the head. The void has awakened.
All right, so tune in next time.
So yeah, the void pretty much stretches his arm, has a cup of coffee, and swallows her whole village and everyone in it. And she can kind of hear the cries as everything's descending into this dark tomb, essentially, of this cavernous space. People injured, helpful or helpless, crying for help, and this goes on for days. And after 3 days, the screams stop, the crying stops. It's silent, it's dark, and she remains alone in this darkness. All hope's gone, senses being lost, and she decides, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna head deeper down to this despair. Because she's a shell of a person at this point, at the age of 10 years old.
But also, I think it's a combination of being a shell and also just a bit of badass. Because especially since it was the way that it's written out here is that the sounds just stop, right? It's not really a thing of you can hear the voices of other survivors, and then you can hear their voices being cut off. It's more the voices just stop. So it's a sound of people slowly dying or just having given up. So Kaisa is just well, no, screw that. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to do that. So if I'm going to die, everybody else around me has just died, I might as well go deeper and figure out where I'm going to die. Exactly. So I like to think of it as a bit more just not just walking down as just oh, woe is me. She's no, I'm gonna go deeper and figure out what in the hell just killed all of my loved ones.
Yeah, and as she's doing this, she's surviving on rotten scrap. She's finding empty water skins because remember the village fell into this pit, right? So there's stuff there. It's just like a ruined city, just now underground, and all this, sustenance obviously brings back her senses to the point to where she remembers, oh yeah, I'm scared as shit. This is a terrifying experience. I'm no longer hungry, but now I'm scared. And she's trading off the two, and then there are skittering creatures, and she encounters one her size and immediately goes back into survival mode. She has a little blade on her, and she, puts hands towards this demon or creature, or we'll talk about what they are later, but she's run the fade, and they tumble deeper and deeper into this abyss as they're fighting.
And again, this is just more of kind of being a badass, or at least giving into the instinct, giving into the instinct of survival. And I do here, as far as with her, deciding to throw hands, we also get call outs as far as to this blade being from her father. So when her and her friend released the goats, it was this gift from her father that she used to cut the goats free, and now it's a gift from her father that she is using to defend herself. So, and that kind of has a bit more of an Irelia vibe of this almost like a family heirloom that is now it's becoming a symbol of survival. But in Kaisa's case, I love that they are kind of giving a tip to the hat to that, because for a lot of old school League of Legends players, we want Kaisa to be Kassadin's daughter, because Kassadin is just that's all Kassadin does. is just try to avenge his family.
Yep.
And it's like, just make at least one member of his family alive. Like, Riot, please, please. This man has suffered enough. If Senna can come back, so can Cassidon's daughter, okay?
Yep. Listen, we're pleading, we're begging on our knees, groveling. Please. So upon killing this creature, she's now deeper in the abyss, and she notices that part of its shell has attached to her skin. And obviously she panics because she's still in that, adrenaline rush mode. And she's trying to break it with her blade. She ends up breaking her blade, trying to remove it. Still attached to her, and then a larger beast arrives. So this is just the intermission between bosses, right? Boss A, boss B, and boss B probably has 3 phases. So she notices, okay, well, I'm fighting this thing. I still have blood. My blood's pumping. And the new shield she has is helping her because it's basically like a piece of armor now attached to her body. And we get a little bit of flash forward as she's getting older over time. The new skin is growing as well. And it makes her more confident. And now she kind of has this plan instead of just, surviving. It's I'm going to fight, I'm going to survive, and I'm going to return with a vengeance.
And I absolutely adore that comparison of just like, boss A to boss B.
Yeah.
Because it's, Kaisa, I did not think of it that way. And now I can think of it as Kaisa being the main character of Elden Ring. So it's like, I walked into the wrong area. I got this badass shield that I shouldn't have yet. But this thing's about to destroy me. I need to run for my life until I can come back and kill everything.
Exactly.
But like the way that it's written here is just like is the perfect way to sum it up. This one little passage here, which is now she had more than hope. She had a plan. Fight hard, stay alive, find a way back. And like it's simple. It's simple. But yeah, like it's simple, but it like not every story needs to have like elegance and thrills.
Yeah.
Like she's had enough thrills. She literally fell into this chasm that ate her entire village. Is the last person of her village, and now the plan is just get out.
Yeah.
Like that's it. We don't need to like put any like cherry on top or anything like that. Kaisa's a cherry on top. We got it.
Yeah, and then the rest of the story is essentially the text on the back of the VHS release where it says 10 years later, she was the protector living in the margins between 2 worlds. She went from prey to predator, protecting Shurima villages from from the fate of her own village, battling the void where others fear to go. She was no longer Kaisa, and like Bankai, she was Kaisa.
Why made all that do that?
But it's still, you have to? It's close enough. All right, I took liberties.
And for the audience that can't see this, yes, he did grab a replica katana that is Ichigo's Bankai and dropped it like he was, he was doing, like the Bankai animation for Byakugan. No, get out. That's canon now.
So let's talk about the card, obviously, which once again, it's aight. They did a decent enough job.
I love this card. No, yeah, I love this card. I don't think it's just all right.
Okay,
it's fun.
We'll talk.
It's
about
fun.
It. So 5 cost 4/4, pretty standard. Quick attack because everything has to have it, and then evolved. And when I'm summoned or round start, if you have the attack token, create a second skin in hand, level up when you've evolved. And then second skin grants or allied Kaisas everywhere another ally's positive keyword. So obviously keywords play into evolved, right?
And the second skin is a 0 cost fleeting slow spell.
Use it or lose it, baby.
Use it or lose it, baby. And long gone are the days of focus speed. Because oh boy, this card was kind of a little a little rough when it was focus speed as far as the second skin. Um, but the flip side of the card is that Kaisa becomes still a 4/4 with evolved in quick attack, and then but since it's evolved, and she has to evolve to level up, it's actually 7/7 instead of the 4/4, and still create the second skin like normal. And then when you attack, deal 1 for each positive keyword I have to enemies or the enemy nexus. And it starts with the lowest health unit first.
Yep.
So like the card is cool because I enjoy cards like this where you're kind of playing like a mini game, right? Because the mini game is getting all these keywords out, and then you get this massive payoff for being able to have all these different keywords in play, and that's why I think it's fun. And I do think that it is fairly good if you get the right combinations of stuff. But
Yeah.
I will agree with you that it's just all right in the grand scope of things, because it's no Pantheon.
Yeah.
Um, and that's because Pantheon, unlike every other champion, doesn't have quick attack.
Yeah.
He has overwhelm. And that means a lot. Like, overwhelm is an important keyword
Yeah.
when you're, basically buffing up one unit to unreachable heights.
Yeah. And listen, we understand you're like, why? How dare you mention Pantheon and not talk about it? It's coming. All right. We'll get there.
We'll get there when we are ready. Damn it.
But Kaisa's flavor on these cards is great because it's essentially just giving you a look into, like Hetch mentioned, all the art is connected with her release, right? So it's this one single event happening that they're kind of referencing. So we have just a few days prior, Kaisa noticed her second skin bristling with new excitement, pulling her with ever-increasing vigor towards the Shuriman coast. Something was wrong, and as Kaisa neared Belveth, that's a name drop, she soon realized the scale of the horror unfolding before her. And then on the flip side, we have Kaisa worked as fast as she could. Another salvo tore through another abomination, sending it crashing to the ground. She had learned how to fight the void long ago, but these creatures, they were different.
Ooh, dun dun dun. Like, how could they be any like, whoa, they're changing. They're evolving too. Oh no, what does that mean for Runeterra? You'll have to stay tuned to find out. Next week on the casuals of Runeterra.
So that brings us to the end of the episode, and we just kind of want to talk a bit about what we mentioned previously about Kaisa's lore versus her personality. So a lot of people have said that you're 10 years old, your village is swallowed by the ground, and then you grow up for the same amount of time, underground, isolated, with these creatures. Do you come out of it essentially a superhero figure who can socialize normally and can do quips and all this? Like, does it fit the character? Oh, also, are you a beautiful woman, or do you age beautifully and have just like, oh, you never were underground, you just are a Power Ranger at this point? Like, that's kind of the discussion's gone on for years about her character and how it's kind of disconnected. So, Hetch, how do you feel about all that?
All right, so first and foremost,
Yeah.
with the beautiful comment, all right, I'm just going to name drop one other piece of media and just end it there. Princess Mononoke. And there you go. That's all you really need to know. I mean, like as far as like I think there's a bit of like the official art where Kaisa does look like it looks like she had to put her face on before she came out of the void.
Yeah.
Like there's like, especially on the front side of her card, she does look like somebody that put her face on before she got on. So I get that, like that bit of criticism, like a little bit, but also it's a video game. Calm down, everybody.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the quips and everything, I think that hers is like kind of done in a decent balance because she doesn't have like Spider-Man levels of quipping, right? Like, she's not over here just trying like to rip these voidlings a new one on like a new one, and then everybody on social media is going to start using, like her catchphrases and the way that she digs into these guys. No, she's just, talking smack. And of course she's going to be talking smack. She was a 10-year-old in basically in hell fighting for her life all by herself. Who else is she going to talk to?
Yeah.
Like if you're alone for long enough, you're going to kind of be talking to yourself and carrying conversations in your own head. So like, I think they did a good enough job of her being like, haha, take that, but not being overly campy.
Okay.
But I can get that. And I think, and this makes me mad at a lot of people. This makes me mad at a lot of people that I do think this very truly. I don't think that people would be having this kind of conversation about her quipping and the like mismatching of her character if she was an orphan street urchin. Like, I feel
we come full circle like, on Casuals of Runeterra, baby. That's what we do.
I feel like if her origin story was her as a street urchin, that people would be like, oh, well, that's why, she's, that's why she has such smart ass remarks.
Yeah.
Is because she's a orphan and toughened by the streets. And really, everybody just needs to get over that whole story arc.
Yeah.
Get over it. People can be smart asses and still have a loving home. Yeah. Okay? Like, so just drop it. Let it go. But I do think that they did a good job of not making it too over the top comedic.
Yeah.
And so that way it does feel a little bit believable. And
it's more of she's maintained her childlike wonderment because she's had nowhere else to apply the growth that destroys our childhood. Well, I mean, in a way she's lost her childhood, but she's still that person. So and we'll talk more about this in the leading story. So the next episode where we'll be able to give more context on why we believe this, but
and a lot of losing like that childlike manner in your words and mannerisms is curbed by human society.
Yeah.
And she had no human society.
Yep.
She only had voidlings and death. that's all she had. So yeah, of course no one's going to be there to be like, hey, you shouldn't say smart ass remarks when you kill a creature.
Well, on that dark note, we've had a fun time again, as always, talking about Kaisa. But as always, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yeah, take care, everybody.